When I went into culinary school and to George Brown, I said, I'm just going to treat this like a ball game. I may not be the best, but I'm going to be the best at some point. If you think about all the negative and the things that could go wrong, that's all you're going to focus on. You know, you've got to look at what the long-term goal is. And the long-term goal for anybody that enters a new field is to be proficient at it, then master it, then teach it, and then take it wherever else you want to take it. But there has to be that linear style of thinking when you go, hey, this is where I need to go. By me teaching and commanding my classroom, even though I wasn't perfect at it, I was able to stand up there and I felt confident. And your passion comes with confidence. You can show me anyone that's not confident, I will show you that they have zero drive, zero passion. Again, once I did that and I auditioned, which I didn't really audition, this show was pretty much laid in my lap, and the Food Network picked it up. So it was that serendipity. It was like literally, it was a goal of mine. I didn't know how I was going to achieve it, but I just knew that by doing the teaching thing, it was going to help me become a better performer.
My guest today is an internationally recognized and known chef. He is an author, he's a teacher, and he's the former host of a really cool cooking show called License to Grill. I used to love that show. Welcome to the show, Mr. Rob Rainford. Good to have you here, brother.
Oh, thank you very much, Danny. I really appreciate this, man. I watch you and I appreciate what you're doing. Love it.
I remember I met you years ago when I used to work at George Brown College Culinary School, which is one of the top culinary schools here in Canada. I used to work in the chef school, and I used to handle all of the student placements. So any student that was in the culinary program, hotel management, restaurant management, I would help them go and find their internship placements. I also used to handle special events for the chef school. And I remember back then, Chef Rob Rainford coming in and doing events at the chef school, and the students would just go crazy because you were this known chef that they used to see on TV, and they used to love when you came in. And I remember that was, I think 2002 was the first time that I met you.
I was younger then.
It was a while ago, you know.
It was a while, yeah.
So where did this passion for culinary come about, for cooking come about? Was that something that you always wanted to do, or did it come together later on in life?
Well, I've always had little spurts of the interest and the spark. I tell the story quite often, but I'll tell it to your guests that in 77, there was a cooking camp and a basketball camp. And I went to the basketball camp. I looked around, too many sweaty dudes. There was a cooking camp upstairs. I said, you know what? I'll take that. Tons of girls up there and free food. I went in that direction. I loved it. But I went home and I told my father, wow, this is really something I'd like to do. And my father said, listen, I'm going to bring you to Canada to be no cook. And the way cook came out, it might as well have been the F word, So, it hurt, and, it sent me in another direction. So I just kind of left it alone. Didn't do a lot of cooking at home. Loved my grandmother's cooking. My mom had 5 of us. So, haute cuisine wasn't on the menu, people. Robbie, how would you like your steak today? We didn't have that. But, when I went to high school at Central Tech, which is one of the numerous schools that I went to, but when I went there, they had a cooking program. It's still there to this day, and it's probably one of the preeminent high school cooking programs. Danforth Tech has one, Robert Borden has one. There's a whole bunch of them out there, but Central Tech kind of trained kids to go to George Brown. Now, when I was in high school, they said if you were unlucky in life, you would end up at George Brown, okay? Because the path is that they want to send everybody to university. Even if that's not your strength or your forte, it's either that or bust. So again, reconfigured, left that school, went to a commercial school because that's, I want to put myself on that path. But again, this cooking thing always just kept calling me. Like Chris Rock, is this thing up and calling me, man? So I did it. And, at that point, after I tried to go to university and, was unsuccessful. And then I worked for a long period of time. I went back to school in the mid 90s. That's where the passion came from, because I wanted to learn from the ground up. Best teachers in the country are at George Brown. No offense to Humber or whatever else is out there, but George Brown is the preeminent school for culinary. And if you go there, you have a great base, and anyone will see your resume and go, I'll take that guy over that guy because we know your training and your lineage. So for me, the passion was ignited in the mid 90s.
How old were you when you went back to school? Like, how old were you when you went to George Brown College?
26 years old, 20 grad.
So what was it like after working, going back to school at 26? And I think it's important because a lot of people think, look, if I don't go to university, if I don't, if I take some years off to work, going back to school at an older age, a lot of people right now might be listening to me saying, like, I just don't think I can do it. So at 26, what was it like for you going to culinary school?
Well, I have to backtrack again because at 19 years old, I had my first child. So that basically, precluded me from doing pretty much anything else other than, getting the money to raise that child. And again, a lot of circumstances happened. That relationship didn't work. But, for me, I had it in the back of my mind that I'm going to go to school. I need to make enough money so that I can get myself through this period of time where I'm not going to be making a lot of money and go through. And believe me, I bit the bullet. It hurt. Every day I felt like I was going back into a hole, another hole, another hole. But I knew what the long-term picture was, is that once I graduate here, I can go to any hotel in the city and get a job and then work my way from there. I'm not afraid. Like, I was a basketball player in high school, went to Eastern Commerce, shout out Eastern Commerce, in the 80s, not the Jamal McGlure time, but again, there was plenty of players just as good back then. But, for us, it was one of those things that if you played basketball, it was all consuming. Yeah. You never thought about anything else. It was like NBA or bust. And you knew what the likelihood of you getting to that level was. But, my single-mindedness put me in that position. And that's where I took the food. When I went into culinary school at George Brown, I said, I'm just going to treat this like a ball game. I may not be the best, but I'm going to be the best at some point.
Go ahead.
No. You're 100% correct. If you think about all the negative and the things that could go wrong, that's all you're going to focus on. You got to look at what the long-term goal is. And the long-term goal for anybody that enters a new field is to be proficient at it, then master it, then teach it, and then take it wherever else you want to take it. But there has to be that linear style of thinking when you go, hey, this is where I need to go.
Failure is a part of the process. I often talk to people like, you can't become successful or have some level of success without failing. And it's important that we understand that along the way, we are going to have failures. We are going to have setbacks. And for you, what was it like? You went through these challenging situations. You went from, being a mature student in school to now graduating and getting out into the culinary world. So what did you learn about yourself being in these high pressure situations, working in these kitchens?
I learned everything. A school only sets you up for so much. And I like to tell all my students that, this is just your blueprint. This is your baseline. Once you go out there, now it's a real application, real world scenarios. And, when you fillet a fish one time in class for a test or for demonstration purposes, that's just one. Now you got to do, 5, 10, 20, 100 now, that's where you're going to get better. But remember, those first 5, after you've only done one, it becomes a bit of an issue. And again, students are students. Professionals are professionals. Once you get paid to cook, you are a professional. Whether you're at the beginning or the end of it, we're all in the same boat here. And back in that time, in the 90s and before, there was basically chefs front of the house. Like, we are the dogs, or you guys are the cats. You come around when you want something, but the dog's loyal, right? That mentality's now changed because it's one family. And if they screw up, I screw up. And if I screw up, they screw up. So if we all look at it in terms of This is not a family. I don't like that term all the time. When you're working, it ain't family. All right. You could make it that environment, but it's really being a professional. And again, I used to be a very crass chef. I used to say things that weren't nice because that's kind of the way people tried to treat me back in the day. But again, being a mature student, I didn't allow anybody to talk to me reckless. Okay. I don't care if you're, Jesus, you come down, be respectful. Okay. And then we can have a conversation. But learning, learning is what is the curve that I'm in for my whole life. I like the unknown. I love walking into dark situations and then turning on a light. So being a chef that's pretty much what we do. We take raw ingredient, process it, and then we turn it out and make it into something special. That's what we do.
Do you remember your first head chef job?
Again, I think it harkens back to what you said in terms of, were you prepared? Was it your time? Were you thinking? Was it over your head? Yeah, it was over my head at that point. But my drive and the fact that, if you assemble a great team around you, because it's not an individual thing. It really isn't. I love when I see these shows and it's the one singular, white knight and blah, blah, blah. It all gets done. That's not how reality is. It takes your dishwasher to your commies, to your first cook, second cooks, chef de partie. It takes all of us in order to get it done. And what I realized was that I needed to ingratiate myself a lot more with my, not my peers at this point, but my now underlings. And that step in your head is like, when you're here, it's one thing. But then once you move ahead, you got jealousy, you got a whole bunch of things, you got knives coming out for your back, and you have to watch these things. And you don't want to tell somebody that here's a career path and it's fraught with turmoil. You work in the most high pressured environment, and yet you're expected to stay cool, calm, and collected. And you're supposed to make sure that at 5:30 when the first meal goes out, or at 11:30 when the last meal goes out, it's all the same. No interpretation.
So how did you deal with people coming at you? You were the head chef, the executive chef. How did you deal with people trying to maybe sabotage you or hating on you or not performing at the best of their ability to make you look bad? How did you do?
It was, well, again, goes back to a chef that I worked for, one of my first jobs, and he's still a great friend to this day. And he was like my vampire. He bit me, right? So I'm always going to have allegiance to this guy. Stop. Hang on one second.
Sure.
Go. And my doggy, was just going to stay and whine the whole time. But anyhow, I digress. He basically trained me the way that I should have been trained. Ground up, fine dining. I learned the basics. So I knew everything that I needed to know from him. And when he left the job, I took over after. And it was difficult when he left. And they always say, when your chef leaves, you should leave too. Because the new regime is not going to be favorable all the time. So it is what it is. I learned a lot of lessons that because of my age, I was able to see things. Being a parent, also changes your molecular makeup, and you're able to see through a lot of things, and it's not all, roses, but you're able to be pragmatic about what you see.
When you're more mature, or when you're able to step back from a challenging situation, you can see it from a different perspective. And that's what it takes for many of us. Many of us, when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel stressed and we're anxious and we can't figure out how to move through a difficult situation, we just retreat into ourselves. And one of the best things that we can do is to remove ourselves from that situation, to get up, to get outside, to get some exercise, to get away from the situation so that you can think clearly and see it from a different perspective. But when you're working in a kitchen, you don't have that luxury. You don't have the luxury of just, I'm going to take off and remove myself from the situation. You're in that pressure situation.
I understand. I definitely understand. I know exactly where I should be. And the hard part about, being in the pressure environment, that chefs undertake willingly, because if somebody told you to do that, you'd never do it. But knowing that the end result is that you're now feeding people, and that if that's not your biggest joy in life, feeding people, just basically making sure that, you know, you're equipped mentally to deal with these things. Because I think a lot of people go into such scenarios not understanding what the big picture is. And the big picture is that if you want to look as good as you want to look, everyone around you has to be equal, right? And a lot of people don't want to share. Chefs are very notorious for holding things to the chest and not sharing information, or not the sabotage, but I think it's a form of sabotage when you don't tell somebody the whole scenario, right? How to do that particular task. And not knowing how to do something is not a recipe for disaster. It's just a recipe to ask more questions and figure out how we get this thing done. That's all.
Were you always kind of, it seemed like you were always like a curious person. You ask a lot of questions. Were you always trying to find out how to do things that were sort of above what your level should have been? Were you like that?
Always, my whole life. I'm a why guy, and I like to answer the why. That's kind of the I didn't know that factor. I want to be able to explain that to people. I didn't have the best upbringing in terms of, you know, nurturing and all that stuff. But again, you know where we come from. You know, it's a survival mode. We came in the 70s, so it's spending time with your parents at the cottage. The back room was our cottage. Okay, in the summertime.
What was your childhood like? Like, you said it wasn't the best upbringing. So what was your childhood like?
I'm one of five. I'm a twin, identical. He does not cook. So
that's so opposite.
Yes. And we just, I always had a built-in best friend my whole life. But my dad was a 70s man. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, we can't judge those gentle people with the same lens that we do now. Like, the father that I am is kind of the father I wish he was to me. But I don't think, a man born in the 30s was going to have the same sensibilities. And as a child, we can't see the stress and the hardships that they're going through. We just, why am I getting a spanking and not a hug? You know what I mean? Although this is the third time I done stole something and I expect, some grace here, but, we weren't getting any grace, not now. We only said that before dinner.
Yeah.
But, I've learned a lot of lessons now that I don't judge as harshly as I used to. And I don't have any daddy issues. I ain't blaming him for nothing. He's still alive. My mom and dad are 91 years old, still here. I really can't say much, in terms of they've lived a fruitful life. And the back nine for them is they can ride it out any way they want.
So many of us have these hidden traumas or these challenges or these blockers that we have based on our childhood. And a lot of people want to blame their parents for, their life as an adult. They want to blame their parents that they're not further ahead. They want to blame their parents that they're a certain way. And I think it's important that you recognize what you said, because so many of us have to learn that our parents did the best that they could with the tools and the resources that were available to them at that time. And it's up to us to do better and to move forward so that we can build a better life for ourselves. And I think some of us are blocking our blessings because we're still holding on to things from our past. And we have to learn to let that go and to release that.
Oh, we all got daddy issues. If we have to break it right down, we all have, especially from where we come from. It is what it is. But again, to use that as an excuse, and that's all it would be at this point. I'm 57 years old. Wow, okay. My life has come full circle in terms of where I started to where I am now and where I want to go in the future. And none of that backstory really adds up to me not being successful, because he didn't believe in my cooking journey, because he said, I didn't bring you here to do that. Right. Because it was tantamount to being a slave in his mind. Like, why do you want to go work in somebody's kitchen? Right. Then we want something bigger and brighter, But again, when a kid has a passion for something, our job is to just nurture that. Provide them everything that you can possibly provide them, humanly possible, and let them flourish. My kids, my last two girls here, they play basketball. They went, one went to D1, the other one went to UPI. Again, if I had ever stifled their their journey, I would have felt like a horrible human being, because I didn't want them to play basketball. I got them golf sets, but my wife, we went to Humberside for some stupid camp, and literally the bug bit us. And for almost 12 to 15 years, we've been in cars driving all over North America to watch our kids play. That's what I would have wanted for me. Little Robbie would have wanted that.
Yeah.
But he ain't getting
Little Robbie? No, it didn't happen for Little Robbie. But what did happen for you was that you landed your own cooking show. And I remember seeing the show for the first time, and I could feel how passionate you were about grilling this food. And I remember talking to some of my friends saying, look, man, we would all sit around and say, man, he makes the food look so good. He's so passionate. The way he describes things, it made all of us just want to go and grill every time we saw the show. So talk to us a little bit about the show and sort of what it was like for you having your own show on the Food Network back in the day. What was that like?
Well, that came about by me teaching in the Con Ed department at George Brown.
Okay.
McCarthy is her name, but she believed in me and gave me a shot, even though I wasn't ready to teach at that point. But she said, you know what, you'd be very good at this, because you're not ugly, you speak English, and you can read. With that vote of confidence, I was able to go and teach my first classes. So I was teaching at George Brown when I got that show. But to backtrack, there was a show called Cook Like a Chef that was on the Food Network. And my mentor chef, who, is younger than I am, but again, as a chef, he's my mentor. He was doing this show, and he asked me to be a sous chef. And once I was able to see how it was done, how the sausage was made, no pun intended, but I said, I can do this. I love TV. There's nobody who's watched more television than me. Okay, not a book, not an outside activity. I love TV. Unabashed, unashamed. I love TV. I can watch it 25 hours, 8 days a week. Okay, 366 days. I could watch it because I get to watch whatever I want. I like to watch things that I learn. So History Channel, Discovery, anything and I watch my frivolous stuff too. But again, I'm always like CNN's on, Fox is on. I want to get every piece of information I possibly can. I'm a visual spatial learner. So I understand that this is the way that information gets into my brain, and I can digest it and then regurgitate it. So getting the show basically came about by me teaching and commanding my classroom. Even though I wasn't perfect at it, I was able to stand up there, and I felt confident. And your passion comes with confidence. You can show me anyone that's not confident, I will show you that they have zero drive, zero passion. So for me, that information that I digested through my cookbooks, okay, which I learned, Food Network was just starting to flourish in Canada. Emeril Lagasse, Multimario, all the old guard that was there. The chef de jour, when Susser would come on, wow, look at that. That's somebody he's just down the street. He's like, you know what I mean? Like everything that I could see, I literally could touch. Michael LaMonaco, I met him on the Today Show. Like I said, you're a mentor. Like you're somebody I watched, growing up and in the culinary field. And I used to take all my specials from watching, cook shows. I just loved it. And again, once I did that and I auditioned, which I didn't really audition. This show was pretty much laid in my lap. I went, did a screen test, 2 days for 1 hour for 22 minutes. And the Food Network picked it up. So it was that serendipity. It was like literally, it was a goal of mine. I didn't know how I was going to achieve it, but I just knew that by doing the teaching thing, it was going to help me become a better performer. Because as teachers, are not the ones who are just reading the PowerPoint, right? I don't care. I can read the PowerPoint myself.
Yeah.
I need the information in between those lines.
I were teaching and you had industry experience at the same time. So you were telling people, don't raise in the reality of this is what the textbook says, but this is how it really is. So I think that the student probably really benefited from that as well.
You know that. I mean, the ivory tower chef doesn't exist anymore, because when we went to George Brown, those chefs, they'd been there forever, right? Alan Brown, Chef Alan Brown,
So he was there when I was there.
They call him Jumbo. He's like just yes. There's a couple that you don't mention their names.
Yeah.
Now I'm biting my lip now. The great Scott, Chef John Higgins was at, King Eddie, and then he came over afterwards. I remember him in the 2000s coming over, and that changed the whole cachet of what George Brown was when he came to fruition. So for me, it's just, there's a lot of mentors around. Again, we were never going to be the guys who, we had a professor by the name of Gregory Law. He was the nutty professor. He was ridiculous. Yeah, he regale us his stories of how he cooked for 1,200 people by himself with one arm broken. And the man was this big. Again, but there were stories, and that was, I had to get through that. Maybe he's embellishing here, but he's doing it for a reason, because this is not a real glamorous life. Okay, I love the Food Network. I love what they've done, but they've glamorized something that's a hard thing to do. And not everyone does it well or at the same level. There are levels to this game.
Yeah. So tell everybody what the premise of your show was all about.
It was every Saturday. I am to be cooking for a few of my buddies that would drop over, and I just come up with some interesting, tasty barbecue and it wasn't barbecue, it was more grilling. So there's a difference between a griller and a barbecue. Okay. Barbecue denotes barbacoa, which is the root word, and it literally means smoke and charcoal. Now, that is one aspect of it. Now, grills, every kitchen on the planet has a grill in their kitchen, whether it be charcoal or gas, but there are different levels to this, because now feeding a fire, making sure your fire stays the same. And remember, gas just gives you consistent heat throughout the whole process, unless you run out of some source. And if it's tied into a natural gas, you'll never run out. All right. So it's a little bit, I wouldn't say easier, but just different in terms of its application. So learning on a grill all the time was my thing. That's why I got that show, because I was an expert on that. Now, it's taken me now, like in the last 5 years, I haven't cooked on gas outside of professional kitchens, but at home it's all charcoal. Okay. Because that's it, because I need 3 of these and we're ready to rock.
Okay. Got your brew in hand, got your beer in hand, and away you go.
Well, with natural gas, you can only drink one.
Yeah. Food's done.
You pick which one you go to. All right.
So you have the show, you're grilling up for you and your friend. And so every week you guys would come up with new recipes. And so, that show went on for a long time. How long?
104 shows I did, 5 seasons.
How many?
104. Did a 1 hour special, which is the 4 part. But I did, basically, that was a good apprenticeship. That's how I looked at that, because learning how to talk to a camera in our application right now, it's not simple, but again, we're engaging each other. But when you have 3 cameras, now you've got to know your marks, and it's a take that what you thought was great, something happened, the cloud went over, your audio went out, it's scratchy. Like there's so many things now when that game starts to be played. I did not know that game at all. I had a little bit. I got a chance to watch from the outside when I told you I did that show, Cook Like a Chef. Yeah. But being in the passenger seat is a different experience than in the driver's seat. Right. So I got a chance to be in the driver's seat. I was a lead by myself, carrying 22 minutes alone. Nobody to, excuse me, could you, nothing. And for the first 6 episodes, I was sucking my thumb hard. I called my wife. I said, honey, I'm coming home. She said, oh, no, you're not.
Oh, you're ready to quit. You ready to quit?
Oh, it was difficult. Difficult thing. It was just, there would be 2 cameras. All right. And I was supposed to go right, which is your left. And I'd go in the middle. Just so confused. Even my camera guys, Peter, and LD and Brian, they would like, they here, you know, and they would try to help, but I really didn't have any true help while I was on the set itself. So it was difficult. But again, 6 shows, 12 shows, I started to find a little bit of that footing, you know, there were some real hardship days there, real hardship. I don't even want to get into them until I write my memoirs. But there were some real hardship days, but then something clicked, and it was told to me, it's going to click. Yeah. Once it clicks, you don't have to start from ground again. You come in.
How did you push through? Because, I mean, people who are listening right now might be on a path to trying to, better themselves, or, or taking action on a goal or a dream, and they're in no place right now. They want to quit. Things are not clicking. We want to give up. So how did you push through that?
I'm a dog, okay? I'm a dog. I'm a damn dog, okay? I would a bone. I am not letting it go, all right? I refuse to be bad at something forever. Now, knowing and being humble about when you're in that learning curve, whatever happens, happens, okay? I can equate it to my golf game. I picked it up in 2006. For almost a decade, I was horrible. A couple good shots that would always bring me back. But horrible. I would shake. I was in celebrity tournaments. I had a guy said, listen, 10 grand, he hit somebody in the grandstand here, like things were said to me like that. But again, go back to the basketball. This is, when we play, it doesn't matter if the guy's 2 inches taller than you, right? You can't stop me from where I'm going, all right? I'm going to jab you. I'm going to feint you. I'm going to do whatever it takes, but I'm going to get to my spot, because that's how good and great players behave. Outside of that, the people who crumble under the first bit of adversity, those are the people that probably you weren't going to make it anyway. You know what I mean? It is what it is, but stick to it.
I think this is the thing. I think when you're going through something, or you have a big goal or a big dream, and you have this sort of downturn and you feel like quitting, I think what I heard you say is that you have to look for those glimmers of hope. You have to look for those days where something goes right. You have to look for those moments where you have moments of joy and you acknowledge yourself. And for many of us, we don't do that. The goal of the dream can be so far away that we forget to celebrate the wins. We forget to celebrate the successes. And we have to celebrate the joys and the successes along the way so that we can make it to the end of the journey to achieve the big goal of the big dream. That's kind of what I got from what you were saying.
Surmise that extremely well, because that's the way it goes. But you always equate things back to with our sports analogy. That's why I think we get along very well, because it really does. Like when you join a team, you remember there's a captain, there's a co-captain, and then role players, and then there's so many different aspects to it. But find your niche, find out what you're good at, and excel at that until somebody sees it, and if they never see it, that's fine too. But I strive every day for perfection, the best I can do. And I screw up. When I'm on social media, I thought 57-year-old man on social media, people are asking me, oh, what is your content? You know what? Shut up, okay? And give you what I give you. You don't like it, like Mike Tyson said, change your station, okay? There's no station to change, but don't worry about me, right? Because I'm used to doing real television, okay? And now with social media, it's changed the whole landscape. A guy you don't even know could cook his way out of a paper bag is now looking like a professional. But now, to me, what a professional is that take all that application and take it to a real restaurant, and let real guests critique what you're doing, because everything at home always turns out just like on TV. It always turns out right, the best, But mistakes are made, and again, learning from mistakes is what I believe in. Don't make the same mistake. Shaq said it. You don't make the same mistake twice. Do your best to eliminate that and work on that, and that's what I do every day in my life. I know I'm not perfect. Ask my kids. Ask my wife. I'm not perfect. I think I am.
No, it's a doctor saying, no, it's not.
If you see the knife coming, you move, right?
So did you always have this confidence, or did you develop it along the way? Where did this confidence come from?
I think of, you know what, if anyone who's known me for a long period of time knows that, my confidence comes with the territory in our house. If you were last, you was last, okay? But if you didn't eat that piece of chicken, you wasn't getting that piece of chicken, okay? So you had to be confident in what you were doing at your own plate, okay? So learning from my family, like I said, there's 5 of us, man, and the jockeying for position was always there. And I had a twin who is smarter than me, you know. I'm better looking, but he's smarter, you know. And I accept certain things, you know what I mean? I'm good at this, he's good at that, and together we're a combination, you know. I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations is over, but when we went to Central Tech, you know, I would take classes twice. Hope they can't take back our diplomas, but you know.
I think I'm taking a couple of classes twice in high school myself. Yeah. So have you and your twin always been very, very close?
My best friend. He's my best friend. I have good friends now, you know, and they know who they are. They are people who mean something in my life, you know. And an acquaintance is an acquaintance, all right? That's somebody that you know, you can say hello to in the street. Well, that guy that when you're down and you haven't said anything and they call you just to make sure you're okay, that's a friend, right? And I always had that in the womb, and I have until this day. It was my best buddy. He's just been somebody that's been there for me the whole time, and you know, he has the same confidence that I have, same drive that I have. And we never have to worry about one trying to, you know, win one on the other person. It is what it is. Now playing basketball, it was cutthroat. I was trying to kill him, and he was trying to kill me.
Of course, that's how basketball is. Like, there's no mercy on the basketball court at all. You know.
No, and I love that about, you know, I would never let somebody win unless you really won. Even my kids know to this day, man, you never won until you could win.
What did your brother do? What's his profession?
He's retired.
Oh.
He was in the plumbing industry for quite a few years. He's done quite well for himself, and he was able to sort of relax on this back nine. I will have to work till I'm 66 or maybe 100, but whatever, whichever one comes first.
So speaking of that, what's next on the horizon for you? What's a big goal or something that you got in the works right now?
So I've got 2 projects, you know. One is a TV show called Hungry, which, you know, I've been talking about for the last 3 years. And at COVID, I've had a whole bunch of setbacks, but, you know, you and I had a little preamble where sometimes, you know, real bad boys move in silence, you know, say nothing, or, you know, speak it into existence. You know, with my partner, we said at the beginning of the pandemic, or before the pandemic, that we want to do a television show called Hungry. With Rainford. We want to cook with a celebrity. But at the end of this mandate is that this food's not going to go to waste. It's going to go to hungry people. Mm-hmm. So knowing that's part of who I am as an individual, that I want to take care of other people. That's how my cooking style is. It's kind of nurturing in that way, that this lends itself perfectly for how I want to be on TV. Now it's going to be part interview, where I talk to the celebrity, just like you and I are having this conversation. And I'm going to be asking those questions that you just asked me. So what's your inspiration here? What is your food memory? And then we recreate that. And then, you know, again, we have 1 full hour, you know, 22 and 22. So it's a big process, you know. And, you know, I've hired everybody, like everyone on this set. I have blessed. I am 50% owner of this with my partner. So I don't work for somebody. This is my project. This is my baby. And you know, my wife and I, we've been sitting with this for a long time. You know, we needed to come to fruition as well, but we're looking like July will be our start time. And we've had stops and starts, but again, this is what we're working with right now. The, you know, 66-7 Group is a company that I started with my buddy, Tim Frey, and he's 67. I'm the 66 part of it. And it's basically a catering, but it's literally anything that you could take to run an event, we can do, from audio to food. And it's on I'll send you that link stuff later. I'll figure out how to do it.
And so it's a one-stop shop for any type of event. They can get the audio, they can get the food, they can get everything.
Everything you need. And between Tim and myself, we have enough experience in the business that, you know, because he's a front of the house guy and back of the house, so we really aren't going to be fighting against each other. All we're here to do is we want to make some money, we want to make some people happy. Right?
So in terms of the show, and you said you got to start shooting in July?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
shopping it around to different networks, or the network?
Yeah, we have a distributor already, Cooking Channel. Oh no, we're good distribution. I got a great team in LA and in New York. This is not a one-person operation. This is not a YouTube show like it, you know. Not gonna be me with my iPhone walking around or GoPro on my head, and nothing wrong with that. I love guerrilla style. Okay, I really do love that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a couple shows on YouTube right now that are more popular than Food Network shows. Yeah. All right, I was told about YouTube when it started, and I did the old lift the nose and I never. And now, you know, oh yeah, I'd take a YouTube show in a second. But again, the fact that, you know, in terms of revenue and on streams and views and all those things, they can change the algorithm on you and you're done. But, you know, with network, it is what it is. They buy the blocks, we air the blocks, and we move from there. So that world makes sense to me. I know how that world works, and I can resell this to international markets. And again, ADC Africa is going to be one of the distributors. So think about a whole continent.
Yeah,
a whole continent, man. Not a country, man. Not, you know, like Irish. Not a game.
Listen, man. Congrats on the show. Congrats on, you know, with the new catering business and the company. That sounds really amazing. So, will you be going like out to LA to shoot in New York?
Oh, yes, 100%. It's going to be shot in LA for the first run. So we got picked up for 53 episodes. So we've got a lot to produce. We got to do we'll probably only be able to get maybe 20 or 30 done in a year. But again, until that mandate's fulfilled, that's number one. Number two is now once that starts going, I want to do the Gordon Ramsay approach where, you know, he's on every single thing you can think of. He is that guy right now. And I lift my hat off to a guy like that who's worked his butt off, a Michelin star, and now he's getting the just reserved desserts of his labor. And I don't look at it with jealousy, but I do look at it as it's a template. Yeah, I'm not too old to not be in this game, right? I know I got another 20 good years where I can produce at a high level. Yeah. No, I can't play basketball at a high level.
You and me both. See, we both have that Achilles injury, so no more basketball on that level for me. I see this a lot. I see sometimes when our goal or our dream doesn't happen in our time frame, on our timeline, and when we want and how we want, we just give up because it's not happening the way that we want. And now more than ever, you know, with the internet, we're able to connect with people all over the world. We can make connections. We can reach more people than we've ever been able to reach. We have access to so much more information than we've ever had. And, you know, one of the things I often tell my coaching clients is that it's never about how to get something done. Because if you don't know how, it's more about the who. Who can you connect with that can help you figure out the how? And I think that's what a lot of us have to realize. It's never about you not knowing something, because with the internet now, you can connect with so many people that can show you how to do something, how to achieve that goal, how to get through that difficult situation.
Yeah, because all everyone can do. Not who is, we don't know everybody. And you need to assemble that team. Again, I know that what you're doing, you're not doing this by yourself. Right. And acknowledging those people that are helping you along the way is kind of important too. That's your whole thing about gratitude, which resonates with me, is that in a lot of circumstances, I don't display that gratitude gene up front. I acknowledge it and I internalize it, but I don't thank you. You know, thank you for doing this. And because again, the world that we come from, and especially with culinary, is like, do it. and the only repercussion is get out. You know what I mean? And that doesn't work all the time. You know, I'm learning. I'm still learning. 57. I feel like a kid. I feel like I'm in that process. I mean, things are percolating and bubbling. And again, with the, you know, maybe this is off topic, but the gig economy, where no one has this one profession or one job anymore. It's all just temporary, and you've got to accumulate all this stuff, worry about your taxes, and take care. You know, I'm not getting a gold watch, right? You know, but I can buy my own, and that's all. That's all the options I need.
I love that, man. I love that. I think some of us, we dream so small, we're afraid to dream big. So our dreams are so small that, like, when we make them happen, our life doesn't change in any way whatsoever. And so we have to learn to dream bigger. And even if you don't achieve that dream, at least your life and your career and your business is so much further ahead. You know, you're lucky that you had your brother and you had this ecosystem of people that kind of supported you and believed in you. And, you know, I had my mom and I had other people that believed in me as well. But what would you tell somebody right now who's listening, who doesn't have someone who believes in them, who's surrounded by a lot of negative people who try to talk them out of their goals and their dreams? What would you say to that person listening right now?
Again, internalize. And again, I may have said that in passing, but again, there were times when I didn't have that support that I needed, especially going to George Brown the first time, where I told you relationship busted up. I have nothing. I'm either going to continue doing this plumbing job that I don't like doing, because I was a buyer at a plumbing wholesale company, lovely company, took care of us, my twin and I. My twin stayed on in it. And I said, you know what? I just can't do this anymore. And, you know, I didn't get a lot of, you know, whoa, good for congratulations, you know what I mean? But I just said to myself, you know what, this is tantamount to, you know, picking up the ball for the first time. I'm going to be terrible at this, but I'm going to continue, because for me personally, I think we rely too much on external influences and not enough of that quiet time that I have between 12 and 2 in my house, where I'm able to just be introspective, talk to myself. Man, the conversations I've had with me, I'm telling you, I've admonished me, I've congratulated me, I broke my arm patting myself on the back, because that's just who I am, you know? And at the end of my conversations, I always say, you know what? You're fucking great. Don't worry about the rest. You're good. You're good. You're going to make it. Whatever this we're going through, we are going to get through this, because I refuse, man, to just let something tear me down. I can't do that. I will not do that in my life. And again, being this age, we've come through a lot of real estate, a lot of real estate. I don't have 57 more years to live, right? And that's just an honest assessment of the reality of life. And do I want that back, mine? Do I want to be a 99-year-old, dribbling down with the water down my face? No, I don't want that, man. I want to enjoy this now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just play way too small in life. I think because of failures or other people's opinions, they set the bar really, really low because they're afraid of being disappointed. And so a lot of people just set the bar for their goals so low that when they achieve them, they don't move their life forward in any way. What do you think about that?
It's because of how we're conditioned, right?
I agree.
I think it's the aspect of us forgetting to play. When you're a kid, that's, recess. You weren't looking for math class or English, recess, lunch, the other recess, and then get to play. That's sort of how my school career went. I'm not sure about you, but again, never forget to play. That's something that I adopted. I'm going to, yes, as negative as I can get from time to time, because when the world does crush me, I feel it. I've experienced some tough stuff over the last couple of years, but the whole world has. We can't use that as the excuse to not succeed or to give up on it. And that's, again, I'm lucky, very lucky that I have an infrastructure around me that allows me to do this as well. Right. But even going back to when I went to George Brown, I had to pay $200 child support, and going to school, I was going to have to work full time and go to school in order to keep that up. And I fell behind from time to time, but it was what it was, because I told you, what is the big picture here? What is the big picture? What do I want? Because when I told people I'm going to be a chef or a cook, man, I got snickers, I got laughed. Even my own father, you cook. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I'm gonna give this a shot. I said, I just need to move home. I need a bed so that I can just come and sleep and go do what I got to do. Because again, my life was unraveling at that point. But I said, I'm not gonna let this thing unravel to the point where I can't fix it. Yeah. I knew that going to George Brown, that was a singular goal that I could just say, I'm gonna focus on this. Don't worry about the rest. Everything else will come back. And I'm lucky that my oldest is now 36 years old, 35, 36. You know, I'm a grandparent of 3 gorgeous little, grandkids, 2 boys and a girl. So I'm, things are happening for me that, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, man, I wouldn't have even thought this was going to be my life.
So when you think about legacy, what do you want people to say about you when you're gone? What do you want to be your legacy?
You know what? And that's like tombstone thinking. What do you want written on your tombstone? What I would like is that I was a decent husband, because I know I'm not great. Let's go, I guess you can hear me. But anyhow, but I'm trying, and I was the best father that I could be to my kids. Really, there was no professional accolades I want. People ask me all the time, well, who are your chef mentors? I told one guy, Ned, who I love to this day, and and a guy, Michael Pastor, who I went to culinary school with. I'll remember these guys for the rest of my life, but I never followed them. Like, I was always blazing my own little path. You guys are good at that. You're good at that, but I'm good at this, and I've always put myself in that position where I was going to be successful with what I do, because not everybody, again, I told you, there's levels to this game. So when me getting into the fine dining already stopped all the middle stuff. I didn't have to worry about these guys, because that's all you can do is you can work at your little chain restaurant and open your bag up and do your thing. That's great. I'm happy for you. But that's not how I'm not going to feel comfortable at the end of the day going, that was my day. So for me, it was always just putting myself in the highest positions, highest part of the deal where I could flourish. That's all I really look for in life. I don't want, I said, Gordon Ramsay, good. I don't watch the shows because I don't watch TV to be angst. Okay. I don't want the competitions don't mean anything to me. I want to learn something at the end of the day, and if he does a show where he's teaching one-on-one stuff that I haven't seen before, I'd watch it. But I've not watched the Food Network since I got on it. I don't watch any. It's like a teacher coming home and watching teaching shows. You're not going to do that. You want to find something else that's the escape part of your life. So I'm still happy. And I told you, there's a lot of good guys out there right now. A lot of good guys.
Was there anything that I haven't asked you that you wanted me to ask you?
No, you know what? I've given you an open book. I told you once when you reached out, I've told you, I've seen this before, and I don't like to push my way onto people's platforms. That's not my thing. When it's my time, it'll be my time. And this is a natural evolution. It really did work out. Serendipity here actually is at play. And again, if there's anything that you ever need, and you need me to, speak on your behalf in the court, I will do so.
That's right. That's right. No, I'm just joking, everybody. I don't have any court cases coming. Rob, like the very first time that I met you, you had this really easygoing nature. You were curious, you loved learning, and you still kind of seem that way up until this day. Like you seem to be somebody who wants to better themselves, who loves to learn, who loves to grow. And I think that it seems to be really consistent from what I know and from what you've said today. And one of the things that I really want people to understand is that we are all naturally curious, creative, resourceful, and whole. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You have this within you. And one of the things that I hope that people take away from this conversation, listening to you, Rob, is that they can tap into that creativity, that curiosity, that they can figure things out if they just step back from the situation and then decide that they're going to play to those things, play to your curiosity, your creativity. So thank you for kind of reminding us of that.
Oh, that's the exclamation point on that. Thank you very much. Sometimes you don't know, like I said, I'm purposeful with my words. I try never to mince them too much. I swear way too much, but I only did one, I think, in this whole thing. But one thing I do remember in life is that, you know, if you can't see the goal, you can't achieve it. So all of the stuff is just a waste of time. You got to be singular in that approach. It has to be the North Star. Find it, walk to it, run to it, whatever, you know, moonwalk to it. I don't care how you do it, but get there. That's all I tell people. Just keep pushing, because my last push will be my last day out.
So my last two final questions. What does the word grind mean to you?
Grind for me is something I use on a daily. It's the work ethic, it's your ethos, it's the way that you matriculate your way through life. Because if, again, you know, back to that North Star, that grind is not going to happen by just looking. You got to follow it with footsteps. And that's what I do every day. Just keep moving. Whether I physically move or mentally move, I'm always in the same position. How do I get this? Where I get this? How do I do this? Just keep playing and don't forget to play and work hard in between. That's it.
And my last question, what does gratitude mean to you?
You know, gratitude is something that I don't believe I've truly given to my life, because, you know, I always believe that you deserve whatever you get. All right. But gratitude to me now at this point in my life is like, be appreciative, be understanding of someone else's perspective, you know. And a lot of the times when I was, you know, closed-minded about something, it's just because, you know, I didn't see it from your perspective. You know, you had a bad day, you come to work, and I'm here now giving you crap, you know, and not realizing that maybe all I need to do is say, hey, how are you today? Give a pound. You know, just different things. Now that, you know, I'm not a clinical psychologist, I don't go see a shrink. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I will always say, dig deep into yourself, because all those answers, they're there. They're just waiting for you to ask the right question.
All right, Rob, again, thank you so much for being here. Please let everyone know how they can connect with you.
They can find me online, but again, unfortunately, I'm 57 years old. On my Instagram somewhere at Chef Rob Rainford, I think. And Twitter, same thing. And I'm not on Facebook anymore because somebody hacked me, and I don't have the energy to go back.
Don't worry. We'll put everything in the show notes and in the description. We'll put all your contact information so that people know how to reach you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Grind and Gratitude Show. We will catch you in the next episode. Take care.